All right, so today's episode, I got my guy Scotty Gray, and we're talking MLS. We're talking Messi, missing the All Stars. We're talking the World Cup and more. So definitely hit that like button and definitely subscribe and let us know what you think about it. And let's talk about it.
Ain't been tight, never known curfews. Sunday night quiet, I ain't even out my church shoes. I done been wide, premarital guessing perfumes. Psycho in a lot, they keep asking me who hurt you. Diapers. Ain't that some shit? You think buying beers and pacifiers made me a pacifist? There's a list of asses that I like to whip. In this timeline, been frames the bad guy shit. Go ahead.
All right, welcome to Sports World Talk, where we talk the world of sports. And today we're talking soccer, aka football, the beautiful game, with my guy Scotty Gray. How you doing today, man?
I'm doing good, Sean. I appreciate the invite, and I always love talking ball, so I appreciate you giving me the opportunity.
Oh yeah, definitely, man, definitely. Like I said, I saw you on Twitter, aka X, and I just, I liked a lot of the, input that you had as far as with, Inter Miami and just, MLS and just stuff in general and whatnot. I thought it'd be a pretty cool interaction as far as just discussing other different topics and everything.
Yeah, man, I'm looking forward to it.
Oh yes, sir. So, like I said, you are an Inter Miami fan, so I do have to get your thought on Messi missing the All-Star game. Is that a big deal, or is it not so much a big deal to you?
Well, here's the thing. I think in about 3 days, no one's going to think about or remember it. So in that respect, it's not a big deal. That said, I do think there's a lot of people that are upset about it, and I think there's a lot of reasons to be upset about it if you feel that way.
Yeah.
Messi has played a lot of games, and if you want to say he's played too many games, needs a rest, like I think all of that's a fair argument. I also think he signed up to potentially be a part of this when he came to the league, and so if you feel like he has a responsibility to be there and you think that he should have, I think that's also very reasonable. Personally, I would have liked to see him there. I think it would have been a lot of fun. I think that if the MLS really wanted him to be there and he decided, I don't want to play, he still could have worked something out with them where he showed up and he waved at the fans and he sat on the bench and would have been a fun time for everyone. So I'm a little disappointed he didn't go, but I also don't think it's something we're going to be thinking about in another 3 or 4 days because the season will keep going.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think that same way. I'm this a little disappointed. I wish he would have went, but at the same time, that yes, he has played a lot of games, so I see the both of each perspective. But I think if he would at least did like media day, which at the same time, a lot of people told me, well, he doesn't do a lot of media anyway. Well, I think a lot of people, they expect the MLS to just adopt to the international ways of stuff. Because, like I said, the All-Star game has been a struggle for every sport: baseball, basketball, football, American football. So it's always been a struggle to have something that's interesting to people. So having a high-profile name like Lionel Messi there, I feel like it would have been a definitely attention grabber, even if he didn't play. So I wish he would have, but at the same time, like you said, it won't last long as far as the backlash. I think everybody's waiting on right now to see if he's going to be suspended for the game this Saturday against FC Cincinnati. I think, and after that, it'll probably be done with it. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I think the All-Star game for a lot of MLS fans, it's like part of our world. And so you want to see him sort of be willing to come into our world and participate. And when he doesn't, it kind of feels like he thinks it's not that important. And so I can understand if anyone's upset by it. I don't have any problem with that. I wouldn't argue with you about it. But again, I don't want to, stake my reputation on a single point because, again, I think in 2 days it's not going to be a big deal anymore.
Oh, yeah, I definitely agree with you there. And especially whenever the news of Rodrigo De Paul coming into Miami is official, I'm sure that'd be the last thing people are thinking about. And you, as an Inter Miami fan, do you like that move of him coming?
Of course, I like the move. He's a phenomenal player. He's going to make the team better. I think a lot of the big picture reasons that he's coming are things to get excited about. It's a hugely ambitious move from the ownership group. I think it means you're going to keep Messi for the next couple seasons, which I think is important. If you're looking at the team, I'm not sure that a box-to-box midfielder like Rodrigo De Paul is the top need.
Yeah.
But also he's going to be the best player. So the best player at that position. And so he's going to be an upgrade. And if you're bringing in Messi's friend and you're bringing a guy that's going to be here for a while and a supreme talent, then of course it's worth it. So yeah, I'm very excited about DePaul coming in.
Yeah, I think like from what I've seen, like say, you can correct me if you see anything differently as far as what I've seen with Inter Miami is they have a hard time transitioning the ball sometime up the field. 'Cause I've seen Messi drop, Suarez, he's dropped to the middle. Jody Alba, he's actually started in the middle a couple of games as well, instead of being on defense, a defender. And it seemed like they've been having a tough time just transitioning the ball, up there to get the offense going. I feel like he'll be a good, you know, factor to get it going. Of course, yes, they need help probably up top too as well. Because Suarez, I like Suarez, but sometimes like, oh Suarez, you could have got that, but he's not what he once was before.
Yeah, listen, I don't want to speak for all Inter Miami fans, but I will be honest. I think a lot of that is more a symptom of what the coach wants from the team. And I
Yeah,
think if we're talking about last year, Tata Martino loved his guys high, wide, and pushing the ball forward, trying to create offense. And it's
yeah,
certainly a much more reserved approach from Javier Mascherano this season. So when you look at Suarez and his drop off, part of it is form, part of it is confidence. I think part of it's
hmm
also that there's not as many guys getting high up the pitch, and whether that's the wide midfielders, whether it's a Jordi Alba from that left back position getting forward, I think that's been a frustrating part of Inter Miami's season. And I also want to acknowledge I get that as a very spoiled thing to say because as Inter Miami fans, we're in a very blessed situation right now. But
oh
of
yeah,
course, when you're there, you want to get everything that you can. You want to get your money's worth. So
yeah,
yeah, I think it has more to do with their play style, and I'm not sure Rodrigo De Paul is going to change how the coach wants the team to set them up. You know what I mean?
yeah. What was there anybody you rather would have had as that extra DP spot? Well, future DP spot. I know that's he's gonna come on a loan, and then next year he'll transition to a DP. But is there anybody in particular you would have think will help the team more at a different position?
Well, I'll be honest. He did come out of sort of the blue. I don't think anyone expected him to be the guy until
Yeah.
news started breaking and all the big names started reporting it. So he really wasn't on my mind. I think a lot of people were thinking, maybe it's going to be an Angel Di Maria, maybe it's going to be a Neymar. Slowly, those things sort of didn't materialize, and there's certainly reasons for that. But
Hmm.
I don't know what the next phase of Inter Miami is going to look like. I do think Suarez is probably going to retire at the end of this season. I think Busquets and
Yeah.
Alba are going to be on sort of non-DP contracts. So Inter Miami is going to have a chance to really refresh the top of the roster. And what was that going to look like? I don't think anyone really had an idea. And so if you tell me 7 months from now, when we get into the beginning of next season, oh, they got a very pacey, athletic striker to pair up with Messi, and then they got Rodrigo De Paul to help push the pace, and they're going to build the
Hmm.
team on a more athletic style and get 10 years younger. Like that could be a very exciting thing. So I don't want to give you like a specific name because
Yeah.
I don't know. Other than I would have always said that I think if you brought Neymar here, it would have been a circus, but in a really fun and exciting way. So. But in terms of competitive spirit, I don't have like a specific name for you now.
Yeah. Neymar was someone who I thought, I'm like, man, I think he'll, be great to bring. And I'm like, how do we miss that opportunity? I know they said, I think the Chicago Fire was rumored a year or so ago to try to get Neymar, but that fell through as well. But I wish that could have been, a possibility, but he's still with, I think Santos right now. But he did have a lot of injuries too as well, Neymar. But another name that I know he's not a big name, but as far as he's 25, 26 years old, is I think Brian Rodriguez from Club America. I know that was a rumor for a little bit. I know he's not like a big time player, but I think okay, hey, having that youth, having that possible of someone who can score on the opposite of Messi, because Messi, of course, is gonna draw the attention. Somebody else who can capitalize off a pass or something like that more efficiently than the guy that we have now. You know what I mean? But that don't seem
Yeah,
like
the
that's coming to place yet.
the Brian Rodriguez rumors were interesting, and I can just tell you what I know. He's got 1 year left on his contract at Club America, and I don't think he's particularly interested in staying. And so I think there was reason to believe that there was going to be a divorce between him and Club America. And
Hmm.
so Inter Miami was thinking maybe we can get this guy on loan for the next 6 months for the rest of the season. I think it would be very difficult to purchase the player considering the sort of plans Inter Miami has. So
Hmm.
it would have been very interesting because you look at how Inter Miami plays, and there's not really a room for a left winger to kind of come in
Yeah.
and be a dynamic playmaker. Obviously, you're wearing an LAFC shirt, so maybe you remember him much more than I do. I just watch a couple highlight videos of him and get a sense
Yeah.
of his play style. But certainly dynamic, certainly athletic, and so whether it's him or it's another player, to see them look at that profile of player, I think is exciting. But again, I just think about the way Javier Mascherano sets this team up, the way they want to play,
Yeah.
and I'm not exactly sure I see him being a fundamental piece. And this is a problem Inter Miami's had where they brought in a couple really exciting young players and they haven't really been given an opportunity to play. So
Yeah.
I would hate to see them bring in another exciting piece and not really get to see what he's made of.
Oh yeah, I feel you. I agree with that right there. And with a lot of the moves that Inter Miami has made, it definitely looks like a to me a transition of what is hope to come in with MLS as far as getting more names and stuff like that. And not just the 35-year-olds. I know they have the reputation of the retirement league, but is it just me that I feel like that reputation is not as what it used to be as far as being the retirement league? Because yes, you have Messi and his crew, but besides Messi and his crew, everybody else is 22, 23 years old. I think Falcone is 28. It's fairly younger ages, you know what I mean? As far as just in general.
Yeah, listen, I think the MLS was trending away from that because I think they got a lot of sort of failures in that regard. Of course, if you go back over the last 20 years, you can find a couple guys that were tremendous successes. But Messi coming, I think, changed how ownerships feel about it because they were so successful and they got a trophy 3 weeks after he came. So
Yeah.
I actually think the MLS was moving away from it, and then there was sort of a hiccup when Messi came, and you see LAFC go get Olivier Giroud, and you see the LA
Yeah.
Galaxy go get guys from Borussia Dortmund and things like that, and it's fine, but there's really only one Messi. I think there's really only
Yeah.
one player that was really going to drag a team to success, and so I think we're starting to get back to let's find some younger guys that are really talented. And Denny Bouanga I think is one of my favorite players in the league. But
Oh
you look at
man.
what Evander's
Yeah.
doing. Go
Yeah.
spend your DP money on a superstar that's already proven himself in the league and has a ton of years ahead of him. Like I think that's where the MLS is heading generally. Of course, there'll be a couple signings that will be for big name purposes. But I do agree. I think they're trending away from that. And if anything, I think
Yeah.
the Messi Inter Miami team is a little bit of a hiccup in the opposite direction,
Yeah.
but a
And
fun one
I
for
think,
me, I'll
like I
be honest.
said, yeah, I think I know somebody else was talking about US, the MLS versus Saudi Arabia League, and I just feel like we have more of a structure as far as for youth. If you see I think the commissioner was talking about the new training facility in Philadelphia and stuff like that. I feel like the academy system, it seems like it's finally working. It's not perfect, but it's finally working somewhat to the way to where you do see more younger athletes, more homegrown athletes and stuff like that. Like I think on the national team, I think like what 5 or 6 like homegrown guys. But yes, of course, there was a lot of people who opted not go for the Gold Club team and everything like that. But I just think like people don't look at that nowadays as far as seeing okay, hey, MLS is actually developing more talent. You know what I mean?
Definitely. And this is something I hope everyone realizes. The MLS gets better every single season. And even fans of the league don't really always recognize this. But if your team's not getting better, they're getting worse. And
Hmm.
so if you're, even with Inter Miami, they have the most talented roster on paper, but they didn't necessarily get better from the team they had last year, and the rest of the league is
Yeah.
catching up. And all of a sudden, they're not running away with the points record. So, yeah, the infrastructure's in place, the talent pool from youth development perspective, it's in place. The facilities are in place, and it's just eventually they will get to a point where they have the money to sign anyone they want, and when that happens, they'll be able to recruit anyone they want, and it will be an absolute juggernaut.
And speaking of, getting a chance to spend the money they want, hopefully that'll be a part of the MLS 3.0, which I know he didn't get into much details as far as what the roster changes and rules will be. But what would you want to be? What would you want to see in the MLS 3.0 as far as changes in general with the league?
Um, I'm hesitant because I have a lot of granular thoughts, and I don't know how deep we should go here. But listen, I think there's a lot of things that MLS does right and that make a lot of sense. I think
Yeah,
one of the things we talked about is getting younger. Well, they had this U22 initiative that they started a couple years ago, and a lot of people have said get rid of that and just uh, allow people to spend more money on those types of players without sort of a three-person limit or things like that. But when you think about where the league was 5 years ago to now, here we are talking about bringing in younger players, the Ricky Pujas
yeah,
of the world, who I think is probably the archetype of what MLS should be trying to recruit. So I think they're making progress. I would like to see them do more to incentivize teams to produce their own talent. I don't think they do enough to
yeah.
give teams benefits for having homegrown players come out of the academy. That's one thing I would really like to see. And then, of course, we can always talk about improving how much money we can spend.
Yeah. What do you think is
That's
a
like I think
fair
a given,
number?
though.
What do you think is a fair salary cap number? Because I say I don't think the MLS is going to get rid of the salary cap because they are so fixated by being financially structured that they're not going to get rid of it at all. But what do you think is a fair number of like each team salary cap?
Well, I don't know if I don't want to put that out there because I don't look at the team's books. I can
Yeah,
tell you what Inter Miami makes, but I imagine Inter Miami makes a
yeah,
lot more than a lot of teams. I'm sure Atlanta and the LA teams and New York make a lot more money than other teams. So I don't know if I can be the right person to judge where it should be. But one of the things I will say that could be, I think, an interesting idea is in the MLS, how they count your salary is not just how much they're paying you, but also how much they paid for you to the other team. So your transfer
yeah.
fee is involved. And I think there's a way where you can take that aspect of it within reason, eliminate it, and with the same salary cap, you can sign better players and more talented players. And like there are ways that you can adjust a thing here, a thing there, and actually greatly impact or increase the level of talent in the league. So I think it's frustrating the pace with which they open things up, but I do think if you look at the trend over time, they're always opening things up on a consistent
Hmm.
basis. So I'd like it to be faster, but I don't want to be too harsh on them because they are doing it. It's just a little slower than I would like.
Yeah, I know because I mentioned on a different video I had that different options of what I would do as far as salary capping and as far as the DP situation because I think it's been three DPs for what 10 to 12 years now and hasn't been anything since then. But I was like, if they keep it at three DPs, maybe a 30 to 40 million dollar cap wouldn't be bad because then you can maybe afford those players from like international at like a $5 to $6 million per year or whatnot. Just and that's not even going for the big names. You can use that for your three DP spots. But I think something like that wouldn't be terrible. It'd be easier to transition because yeah, it's a big jump from I think the current one now is like 6 million, to 30 to 40 million. It's a pretty decent jump. But even if you didn't do that, if you did like a $10 to $15 million cap and have add at least another one or two DP spots to where it'll help. One, players get paid more, two, and you can get more quality talent. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but the problem with that, not to rain on, but
No, you're good.
you can't bring in a Lionel Messi if you have that type of cap. You have to have like a special exception to get the superstars.
Yeah.
Messi's bringing in $21 million or whatever, but he's got all these other commitments that you would presumably put on top of that. So he would eat up your whole
Hmm.
budget times five. And if you want to bring in maybe Messi's an exception because he's one of one, but if you wanted to bring in a Neymar or LAFC is apparently looking at him and Son,
Yeah.
you're talking about guys taking up 25-30% of your payroll. Teams may try it at first. I think eventually they'll realize this isn't the right way to do this. And then all of a sudden you stop seeing those types of players come into the league. So I like the fact that there's a special exemption for 3 players. And if you want to make it
Yeah.
4, if you want to make it 5, like I'm all for that. But I think there's a big way you could get a lot more talent in the league by just decoupling transfer fees and salaries in terms of how much teams are paying without dramatically disrupting the parity that the league really wants. So there's a lot of things you could do. And if we had 2 hours to go over it, I'm sure we could talk about 15 different little things. But yeah, I think they're getting there. It's just
Yeah.
you want it to be a 2-year process, and it's probably going to be a 10-year process.
Oh yeah, and also that what was spoken on the MLS 3.0 was the change of the calendar season. How do you feel about that? Do you like the fall to spring, or do you like it how it is now?
Speaking just for myself,
Yeah,
I don't necessarily love the idea of changing it. I don't think the things that are proposed to be huge increases or pluses about changing it are necessarily worth the trouble and problems that will come with changing it. So I don't love it, but I also think that there are good reasons to do it. There are good reasons not to do it.
yeah.
I wouldn't fight anyone who was a big proponent of it. So I think maybe I'm just a curmudgeon, and I don't want to change too much. But
Yeah.
I'm a little sad that during the whole summer there's going to be no soccer, and
Yeah, that's the
I
only thing I'm
like
like, God,
I like the fact that when my favorite teams in Europe stop playing, I still have the MLS all summer. So
yeah,
maybe that's just a little selfish of me, but
that's
it
totally
is
understandable.
my intuition.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I think just trying to see how they're going to structure it, yeah, because it will be around the same time as, football's, American football is getting going, NBA and everything's getting going. And as far as will the viewership drop, anything like that? I know those are questions a lot of people had. Also, with the colder weather, places like, Colorado and other places where you get the snow and stuff like that, how that affects things. And which I thought, well, American football is played outside and everything like that. I said, well, yeah, they have pads and stuff on. So, but I'm sure that there are ways they can, you know, change it up to where, they can still work. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know if you watched this game, but I think it was 2022, like February 2nd, January 29th, something like that. The U.S. men's national team played a World Cup qualifier against either Honduras or El Salvador. And like 3 people got frostbite in that game, and it was in Minnesota United's stadium.
Yeah.
So the trouble, I think, is real. I think working
Yeah.
around that is absolutely real. Fortunately, I'm from South Florida, so it's not something I'm going to have to deal with. I think we'll probably get more rain games at the big time of the year.
Yeah.
It's something we have to deal with in South Florida. But I think, like I said, I don't know if the positives are necessarily worth it, but it's just my own
Yeah.
personal opinion.
It definitely seems like they are trying to align up more things with the international stuff and everything like that. I know which a lot of people compare, what the international teams and leagues are doing and how MLS does it. You know what I mean? And I feel like I agree and disagree with certain things because I think like like we said before, people don't like the All Star game. Oh, we shouldn't have it. You should have it at the end of the season. You shouldn't have it at all. There's no purpose. But the tradition here in the United States is every league has an All Star game. You know what I mean? That's just a tradition type thing. You know what I mean? It may not be in other leagues or countries or whatnot like that. So I think people should have a little bit more understanding of like, okay, hey, this is how it is here. You know?
Yeah, there's certainly a readiness on the internet to say that your opinion is what is right and what should be. So that's certainly true. And as I tried to preface a couple times, like this is just how I feel about it. I don't want to
Yeah.
speak for Inter Miami fans or try and claim that what I'm saying is always right. There are pros and cons to it, and I think they're both legitimate. I'd be very interested to see if it actually changes things in a dramatic way. I think if you're
Hmm.
talking about 20 years in the future and MLS is trying to be the best league in the world and they're trying to overtake the Premier League and maybe 20 years isn't long enough time frame for that
Yeah.
type of growth. Sure, like you can convince me that they have to be directly competing with the Premier League and La Liga to achieve that, but and maybe that's why they're actually doing this.
Yeah.
But if you're talking about the short term, I don't know if I see it as strongly. But no one's paying me to make these decisions, so probably for
Do
good
you,
reason.
do you think that Pro Rel should be a part of MLS 3.0?
What do you think, man?
I honestly I don't see it working for MLS mainly because are you really gonna not have a New York team, a LA team, Atlanta team, a Miami team not in the top part of the league. You know what I mean? I think here it's all about place and everything like that. And I think maybe they set up a system to where if a team is not performing well, instead of getting demoted, you get penalized at a certain a fine or whatever like that. Hey, your team isn't performing. We need you to step it up, or you get a penalized or whatever of some sort. I don't know, but I'm not sure how it would work here because you have so many markets that I look at the whole MLS. I'm like, okay, hey, how can you not have Miami right there? Hey, like
Well,
seeing Nashville games, like man, them fans are like they want it out there. You know what I mean?
yeah,
But you got to
and
hold the owners' feet to the fire too. At the same time, I understand that.
yeah. Listen to that point. Inter Miami would have gotten relegated with Messi 2 years ago.
Oh,
And the reason they did that is because they were saving a lot of their resources to go for it when Messi got here, and so they had a terrible start to the season. But like that's the reality. They would have gotten relegated. I will just say I think relegation and promotion is a great idea in theory, and I think in
mhm.
practice, almost everywhere in the world outside of maybe England, maybe Germany, maybe the biggest two or three countries in the world in terms of where their soccer leagues are at. I think it's a disaster for every club that has to go through it across the world.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I don't think for a club, for a league that has clubs that are still trying to grow and build audiences and build fans, and not just build their audience in terms of numbers, but to make that audience deeper fans, right? To
yeah,
make them diehards, to convert them into people that remember that one time they won a cup and they feel great about it, and it turned into lore and history and all that stuff. I just think relegation could be like a death knell for a lot of those clubs. And the fact that Miami could be one of them, I think is scary on the one hand, but in terms of any other club, I think it would be sad to see. You're absolutely right. If a club is not doing what they should be doing consistently for their fans, that's a problem. I would be happy to talk about how poorly CF Montreal has been run,
I was
uh,
about to say
but
using an example.
but again, like that's one out of 30 examples. I
Yeah,
think the league will continue to grow in terms of the number of teams, and so I don't know if I see relegation mostly because, of course, promotion's awesome. I'm not sure I
yeah,
see relegation being anything that happens anytime soon. And in
yeah.
fact, I actually might not be surprised if we see some of those other leagues close off their promotion relegation before you ever see it in America.
Yeah, like because like you said, you do have a lot of teams that still establishing themselves. Like Inter Miami came with 2018. You got I think San
2020
Diego
was the
this
first
year.
year, yeah, and
Yeah, it's like
that you
so
had
many
COVID and
new
everything, so
teams,
yeah.
and it's hard. I think that like I always speak on a lot of videos I do of like FC Cincinnati. I love seeing the atmosphere there. You know what I mean? And I think, like you said, that people have to get diehards and get that culture going because that culture is not here. But I think who they played recently. And but I think like was it in Miami? I think it was in Miami actually.
Last
FC
Wednesday, yeah.
Cincinnati. And they when they beat us and everything, and but you can just see them chanting like that's something that you don't see at a college football game. The chants and stuff like that. Yeah, you have different type of stuff, but just that culture has to be built and has to be developed, and the love for what they see and has to be has to grow. So having pro rel may mess that up. People may not believe in their team. You know what I mean? Because like I said, I've been a Miami Hurricane fan since I was 6, 7 years old through ups and downs. People have to become that in love with their team, whether it's Atlanta United, Inter Miami, or anything like that. So I think pro rel may not be something that it's easy to adapt here because it's new to a lot of people here as far as just a casual a fan of sports and here in America. You know what I mean? Because they're like, pro rel, what is that? Football, American football doesn't have that. NBA doesn't have that. You know what I mean?
Well, and
So
it's not just like not understanding it. It's like if you have to live through it, it's
yeah,
terrible. And I have been around South Florida sports long enough to know that if you're not good, the fans will just tune you off. And
Oh yeah,
every team in South Florida has to deal with this when they're at their worst because the fans are fickle as part of the culture here. But
yeah.
that's why there's an incentive to be good all the time.
And speaking of fans, there's a lot of MLS hate from fans of just soccer and everything in general. How is it do you think that what MLS can do to convert some of those MLS haters or just naysayers into actual MLS fans? Is that even possible?
Can I ask you, why do you think they don't like MLS?
Well, a lot of things that I see, like I have a friend of mine, which I love having these conversations. A friend of mine, I asked him, hey, why don't you watch more MLS games? And he said, well, the pace is too slow, or he just, it's more like they're just trashing it. You know what I mean? Of course, everybody can have a critical opinion about which is fine. But, when it gets to, oh, it's just trash, I'm like, no, I've seen some games, it was pretty good. And the comparison I use is, like I said, I'm a big basketball fan. I love NBA and everything too as well. NBA, people don't expect NBA players to play like, the European players. You know, yes, the NBA players in the league is probably the most dominant league, but still the NBA players and the European players aren't focusing on I have to play like the guys in the NBA. Because like if you look at Luka Doncic, he's not athletic at all, but he has technique. He has a definite style that's it screams a European style. You know what I mean? And yes, it's more slower, but it's technique to the fullest though. You know what I mean? Which in MLS, people like, oh no, if it's not like the European teams, it's bad. You know what I mean? It seems like as far as conversations I've had with a couple of friends and family members and stuff like that too as well. So how can those people change over to, oh, you know what, I like what's going on.
Yeah, I think for that type of fan who already likes soccer but maybe isn't interested in the MLS, I think it's just a matter of time. Like they will at some point have it be brought to them and they'll decide whether they like it or not. And I think as we've talked about, I think the league's going to get better and you'll see, okay, maybe this is good. Maybe I will watch because Messi's playing or, actually that Denny Bouanga guy is pretty fun to watch.
Oh man, he
I
is,
do.
and I would hate that if they.
I know.
I know there are rumors of him going to a Club America. I would hate that, man. God, I would hate that.
No, I want Miami to buy him. No, I think there's another stream of thought that the MLS is bad for the U.S. men's national team.
Yeah,
And I think that's fine to have as an opinion. But I also think that like denigrating the MLS because you think it's bad for the U.S. men's national team doesn't really achieve any of the goals that you want. Because as the MLS gets better and better, it will be a better avenue for development for the national team. And just because you want a player to leave the MLS and go to Europe, which is fine and probably the right thing for their development if they want to maximize their potential right now.
yeah,
It doesn't mean the league is bad. It doesn't mean the league is unworthy. And there's plenty of guys in the MLS that would be stars on the U.S. men's national team. They aren't the American players. And so
yeah.
I never really liked those conversations because I think they're unproductive. But I think as far as just converting casual fans, listen, I watch a lot of the Premier League. I watched the Premier League before I watched the MLS. So it just
Yeah.
happens one day. And maybe it's when they open a stadium next to your house, which is what happened with me.
Yeah.
But until then, I guess it's just a slow process.
And do you think? I know we talked about names and stuff coming to the MLS. Do you think having those bigger names, like like I said, nothing too crazy. I don't want everybody to go out and get 35-year-old, big star players anymore. But having names that teams could, sink their teeth in. You know what I mean? Because well, not teams, but fans. Because here in America, of course, everybody's all about the big name. Oh, Peyton Manning, LeBron James, those type of players, do you think they should have at least one big guy on each team or whatnot? Or how does that happen for you?
I think it's a good way to get people to try your product, but that if your product's not good, they won't stay.
Yeah.
So, listen, I'm all for bringing in big players, that big name players. I think if you can get them on sort of non-DP contracts, which we've seen a couple times, that's even better. But you still have to make sure your team's good. And if your team's not good or they don't play well or it's not fun to watch or it's not exciting, you'll get fans
Yeah.
to check you out, but they won't stay. So it's a double-edged sword. And obviously a lot of these guys that are big names are tremendous talents. But also I don't think a lot of them move the needle quite like people thought they did 5, 10 years ago. So
Oh yeah.
make sure your team's good and do whatever it takes to win trophies. And I think you're going to be in a good spot.
Right, and who would you say out of the MLS team is like the top five, top 16 as far as the premier teams of the MLS? Who would you say? Of course, Inter Miami. Who else will be along that that stigma as
You
far
mean,
as
do you mean in terms of their prestige or in terms of like how good they are right now?
how good they are right now? Yeah, because I know that there are teams like I said. I think, of course,
Yeah.
like I said, Atlanta United supposed to be that. You know what I mean? But as far as what's good right now, as far as teams based off of teams, location, and the fan experience, and also their play on the field.
So I think the three best teams in the MLS are Cincinnati, Miami, and Columbus. And they've done it in three vastly different ways. Columbus built around their coach and has an incredible style that's fun to watch and incredibly effective. Cincinnati bought a couple young, hungry superstars in Evander and Danke and some of their other guys that they have there, but they don't have that big name. And obviously Inter Miami has Lionel Messi and guys that have done it on the world stage and World Cup winners and all that stuff. So those three, I think, ironically, are the three best teams and have done it in vastly different ways. The
Yeah,
culture in Cincinnati and Columbus is fun to watch. I will say, every time we go to Cincinnati, we seem to lose big time. But the one time we went there and got a win, which was the U.S. Open Cup semifinal a couple years ago, I think that was my favorite experience as a fan. Going to Columbus and winning there because of the environment, the atmosphere, it's one of the most fun experiences as a fan for me. And then I don't think the Western Conference is as good this year. So I know Vancouver had a really nice start to the season, but I think they maybe lacked the top end talent. Philadelphia, Nashville, I think they're going to run out of steam at some point. So I think those three are the teams that have real staying power. And then some of the teams that have the highest potential, not obviously
yeah,
going to do it this year, but the Galaxy, LAFC, I think are both in transition years, but they have some of the pieces. And if they can keep that team together, for LAFC, it's get a new coach and maybe add one big piece.
yeah.
That could make them phenomenal. And then I think on the other hand, for the Galaxy, you got to get your superstar back. And then now that you've won the MLS Cup, you had to pay a bunch of bonuses, lose a couple pieces. Now that you can start to rebuild going into next year, I think that's another team, because of that young core that they have, could be really exceptional next year.
Oh yeah, definitely. And speaking of next year, of course, is the World Cup, and it's coming here to the United States for the first time in years. How do you think MLS can capitalize off that the most, as far as at least two things that they can do to capitalize off the attention that the World Cup brings?
I'll be honest, you told me you wanted to talk about this before we went live, and I thought as you were telling me this, I better come up with some good answers over the next 37 minutes, because I don't really have anything other than I think MLS is going to take a break. They're going to have some of their stars in there, but I think just people are going to be excited about soccer. And so it's not a matter of how do you take advantage of the moment. It's just a matter of fans are going to be excited about soccer. They're going to give you an opportunity. And then can you show them a good product? And that means, whether it's star players or good soccer or your team winning. I think the teams that do really well are going to be, in terms of performance on the field, those are going to be the teams that get the most fans, and the teams that have a really bad roster. And we mentioned Montreal, but a couple other teams, those are the teams that are going to miss the opportunity in a really unfortunate, disappointing way. So I think it has more to do with team by team. That said, I would like to hear what you have to say, because I don't have any good ideas, and I'm sure you do.
Things that I would love to see them do is, one, marketing. Like, I know that ESPN, they don't do really anything, MLS soccer much as far as conversation. I think somebody says mainly because of the TV rights and stuff like that. But I wish that, like, when the Club World Cup was here, I'm like, why wasn't there any interviews with Mbappe on there, or on Fox Soccer? Anything as far as those bigger names, I wish that was done more. As far as just in general, not just MLS, but just So this for soccer here in America in general. You know what I mean? Why wasn't that done more? You know, and so I wish marketing was a little bit, a little bit better, and also more discussion on, okay, hey, look at our academy program. Look how it's changed. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. Because like I said, everybody have the same eyes of like 10, 15 years ago of the retirement league. People keep looking at MLS through those same eyes and thinking they see the same league, but it's not like that anymore, I feel.
Well, let me ask you a
You
question
know?
because
Mhm.
when I was growing up, I used to watch SportsCenter before going to school. Like that was
Yeah.
what I did. And I feel like anytime I put on ESPN now over the last 5 years, it's like they talk about football and it's not even like fun conversations. It's like
Yeah.
who's going to win the MVP and it's April.
I know, right?
And some of the NBA and it's not just soccer. I feel like a lot of sports don't get the limelight and in consequence you get a lot of I don't want to use the phrase independent media, but I think that's probably the best way to use it of people
Yeah.
that get to talk about what they want. And so we get to get on a podcast and talk about soccer and people that are interested in soccer. They're not looking at ESPN because they know they're not going to get it there. They
Yeah.
gravitate towards stuff like this. And so when you're talking about growing the fan base, I understand you put Mbappe on ESPN, people are going to see him, but I'm not sure that
Hmm.
really converts people into soccer fans because they're not going there to learn about new sports. They're going there because they want to hear debates about who's the best defensive player in the NFL or
LeBron James
whatever.
versus Michael Jordan
Exactly.
for 15
Exactly.
years
So,
straight.
exactly. So, I think actually it's more about just giving people an opportunity to take a chance. But then
Hmm.
I think really the real work, the work is probably the wrong word, but when you convert people into true fans, it's because they watch podcasts, they watch YouTube videos, they
Yeah.
listen to people like us people like us, they listen to conversations like this when they go to the gym or they're driving to work or whatever. So and when that's the case, it becomes hard for a centralized organization like Apple or like the MLS to have a huge influence, but maybe
Yeah.
I'm selling them short and maybe they have a huge responsibility. But I don't know. I think the best way to become a diehard is to listen to podcasts about the team because you want to,
Yeah.
not because anyone's force feeding it to you, you know?
Yeah, I feel you definitely. I think like I know unfortunately a lot of things that are on TV nowadays, it's all about the drama, the like I said, oh, this coach got fired because of this. And for me, I'm like, I'm tired of this. I'm like, man, I keep seeing this same stuff on here over and over again. Why can't we ever see this? So that's what really triggers the thought in my mind. Like instead of having the Michael Jordan versus LeBron debate for the hundredth time, do Messi versus Ronaldo or something. Like, do something. You know what I mean? But I think that like I said, also based on just things that MLS can do just in general. Like I said, if they are gonna switch the calendar year, you know what I mean? Just the how people are when they get the news. Like people love the attention of, oh, how's Messi gonna do in the Club World Cup? Oh, how's Messi gonna do it in Inter Miami when he first came? They likes that attention things. If MLS gave them something to draw the attention during that time frame, as far as, hey, if you are going to change the calendar, make that big news. If you are going to change the roster rules, make that big news, which I'm pretty sure they probably would in ways, but I feel like their own marketing should be a little bit better in ways.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm sure that's fair, and I'm glad I'm not the person in charge of making it better. You know, you mentioned all these little things, and one of the things the NFL does really well is making every little thing an event, right?
Yeah.
Think about when the schedule releases. That's a huge day in the NFL, and everyone's talking about it
Yeah.
on SportsCenter, and like you think about when soccer drops their schedule, and it's just a tweet from the teams.
Yeah.
So, but I think that's more credit to the NFL than sort of
Yeah.
lambasting the MLS.
And also, like, if you look at same thing with NBA, like the NBA commissioner Adam Silver, he loved the fact that the Luca trade was done like the week of the Super Bowl. So a lot of the attention that week in sports was about Luca Doncic going to the Lakers more so than, oh yeah, the Super Bowl. You know what I mean? A lot of
Yeah.
like outlets you would go on to during that time frame was Luca, Lakers, Luca, Lakers. and he loved it. You know what I mean? Because it drew the attention away from the
I'm
Super
sure he
Bowl.
did. Yeah. Yeah. And to the NBA. But I don't know if the MLS should be trying to compete with those leagues for
Yeah,
attention. It's, I think people have consistently not given them enough credit for their efforts to create deeper fans. They
yeah,
want them to continually pursue more fans in a larger number and increase viewership in terms of raw numbers. But I don't think they give them enough credit for really trying to turn the people that are fans into diehard fans, into people that are going to be fans for the next 20 years, into people that love their club in the type of way that if they lose their best player, if they, you know, get a change of ownership or whatever, like they're still going to be there. I don't think the MLS has got enough credit for that, and
yeah.
I don't want that to go unspoken of.
Oh yeah, and I think at the end of the day, MLS is 30 years old. And if you look at the NFL when it was 30 years old, the NBA when it was 30 years old, it wasn't even live yet. The NBA when it was 30 years in, it was still tape recorded. You know what I mean? So a lot of things change. I think I think MLS has room to still grow more. You know what I mean? But I know a lot of people are impatient. I agree. I say to myself at times, if we can just do this, do that. But looking at it in hindsight, okay, hey, they started with 10 teams, it's 30 teams now. They started with this player right here. Now it's this, you know what I mean? So they have definitely made changes the past few years. And like I said, I am, definitely interested in the growth of MLS and I want to see it more because, yeah, I root for my home teams because, hey, I can go to a game easier than, hey, let me get a plane, go to, Paris and go see PSG. It's a lot easier to go see Inter Miami, Atlanta United, FC Cincinnati and stuff like that versus going over there, which you can like both, of course. But I feel that MLS has a lot of potential, which, like I said, I mentioned in the video I had before, they have so much potential that it's at a boiling point as far as with certain markets. Like I said, FC Cincinnati, Columbus Crew, Nashville, of course, Inter Miami, and several other ones that just like, man, the fans are there. You know what I mean? It's just changing a few of the roster rules and just a little few nicks here. I feel will set it up even more.
Yeah, listen, Inter Miami, I think they were making about $40 million a year prior to Messi.
Yeah,
Now they're making $200 million a year. If you can get every team to start making $200 million a year, you can really start opening the salary cap, and you can get to that 40 million number, right? But when teams are making $40 million a year or $30 million a year, because I'm sure Miami wasn't the lowest, it
yeah,
becomes hard to spend $40 million on players if you're not even bringing that much in. So it's happening. You want teams to be ambitious, and Miami has done that. And so, again, I'm a
yeah,
very spoiled fan. I'm sure LAFC has done a great job of that. I'm sure San Diego's doing a great job of that. Like, teams are pushing it forward. And so, even if you want it necessarily for your team or for the league or whatever, teams are constantly pushing to get ahead, and the league's getting better every year. So, I think if you step back and you really look at it from a big picture, I think you see that things are heading certainly in the right direction. But yeah,
oh yeah, definitely,
let's just get this fourth DP, or let's just open the salary
yeah,
cap by an extra $1 million. Like I totally get that too.
yeah. All right, I won't hold you. I want to ask you one more question, and you can be biased on this question. All right, you can be
Okay.
biased. Who's winning the MLS Cup this year?
Uh, I I will say I think the MLS Cup is a lot of luck. Oftentimes, the Galaxy won last year, and they got a pretty nice schedule to the final. And in
Yeah,
the final, I thought Cincinnati was a beast last year. I thought Columbus was incredible last year. I thought Inter Miami was the best team in the league last year, and the Galaxy didn't have to play any of them. So
yeah,
it can be a little bit of a crapshoot, but I want to say Miami, but I just don't believe it. I'm going to go with Cincinnati because I think they're the second
Oh,
most
you don't
talented team
believe?
in the league.
Okay. So Cincinnati.
I
Okay.
don't think their coach is I don't think the coach is good enough, if I'll be honest.
Yeah. So do you think? I know a lot of people, think that they need a change of coach or whatnot. I go back and forth too because I did in the first game against I think Porto in the Club World Cup. In the second half, I saw change in the team and everything like that. They controlled the pace more. First half, they was running, and it looked like Porto was about to take us out. You know what I mean? But second half, they came out and controlled the pace more. So I see that, yes, the players, but I give it to the coach too as well. So that's what makes me go back and forth. Okay, hey, I seen him in a game against a pretty good team make changes and it worked. You know what I mean? But do you think is it ready to get a new coach, or are you still holding on to him?
I don't think the Inter Miami coaching position is about who's the best coach. And I don't think that's why he was hired.
Yeah.
So as a
Oh yeah.
fan,
No.
that can be incredibly frustrating. I think there's some politics involved at the club, and I think that can be a real factor. They're not gonna fire him before the end of the season. I don't think they want to fire coaches without giving them at least a full season. Like I think from like the ownership just doesn't feel like you've given them a real chance unless you give them the year. I think that's
Yeah.
unfortunate because Messi is here for a limited amount of time, but they've had some success, and on paper they have things in front of them that can turn this season into a huge success. So if they do win the MLS Cup, it's a huge success. If they do
Yeah.
win another trophy or hit the points record or whatever, like something like that, like it can still be a huge success, but I don't know if I have the utmost confidence that they're going to make it happen.
Yeah, look, I got you. Okay, I'm gonna do it for you. I'm gonna be biased for you. I got
Okay.
Inter Miami winning it. I got you. So
Okay.
you don't have to say it. I got it for you. Inter Miami will win the MLS Cup this year because they have to. What better way of going into the brand new stadium being MLS champions? Just saying.
Hey, from your lips to God's ears. I don't know if I'm humble or crazy. I will say I've never written off that I might be crazy. So I like your prediction a lot better. I hope it comes true. And by the way, man, I just want to say thank you for having me on. It's been a pleasure talking to you. And I hope we can do it again at some point.
Oh, definitely, man. I definitely appreciate you, coming on talking soccer, MLS, and Inter Miami. Definitely love to have you again, man. If there's any, you have any channels, YouTube or Twitter, or you want to shout out how people can find you.
Yeah, my name's Scotty Grays. That's my handle at Scotty Grays on Twitter. You can find all my stuff there, and I don't want to spend 30 seconds plugging everything. So I will just leave it at that and ask you if you would put it in the description so people can find it easily.
I got you, definitely, man.
Appreciate it,
I
man.
appreciate you, man. You have a good night. Hey, until next time, man. Have fun.
All right, man. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
You too, man. Appreciate you.
There's a list of asses that I like to whip. In this timeline, been frames the bad guy shit. Go ahead and